All right, let's get right into it. Today we're diving into the pretty wild but totally fascinating world of the French philosopher Jean Baudrillard, and that's pronounced Jean Baudrillard. We're going to tackle his really radical take on nihilism in the world we live in right now.
So let's start with a question that's meant to flip everything you think you know about nihilism on its head. I want you to forget about that dramatic, destructive version you might have in your mind. Baudrillard is asking us to think about something way more subtle, and honestly, maybe a lot more total.
And you can really see the difference here. On one side, you've got your classic angsty nihilism, all about the death of God, violently tearing down meaning. But Baudrillard says that today's nihilism is different. It's cool. It's transparent. Indifferent. It's not that God is dead. It's that God has become hyper-real. Just another image floating in an endless sea of simulations.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to look at where nihilism came from, then really dive into Baudrillard's whole idea of transparency, explore what it actually feels like to live in this state, and then, at the end, ask, is there any way out?
So before we can get to Baudrillard's new thing, we got to take a quick look back. To really get a handle on where we are, we have to see what came before.
Baudrillard basically sees two big waves in the past. First up, you have Romanticism in the 19th century. That was all about destroying the accepted order of appearances. Then, fast forward to the 20th century, you get movements like Surrealism and Dada. Their target? The order of meaning itself. Now, each of these was a radical act in its own time, but what they really did was set the stage for something completely new, today.
And that brings us to the third stage, our stage. This new nihilism, he argues, isn't some artsy movement or a political statement. Nope, it's built right into the system we all live in.
And this right here is the heart of his whole argument. See, the ultimate nihilism, the most complete version, isn't achieved by blowing things up. It's achieved when everything becomes a simulation. The system doesn't need to destroy reality if it can just replace it with an endless loop of models and sides.
So what exactly are we talking about with simulation? It's not just a copy, it's not a fake, it's when the map actually becomes more important than the territory. Think of a perfectly curated social media feed that starts to feel more real than the messy life it's supposed to represent. Or a 24/7 news cycle about a crisis that becomes more real than the crisis itself. The model takes over. And all of this leads to a state Baudrillard calls hyper-reality. It's the world we're in now where the lines are so completely blurred that trying to find the real thing behind the simulation is basically pointless. The signs of happiness are happiness. The image of success is success.
And this just brilliantly sums up the end result. We were all expecting a big, dramatic apocalypse, right? But we didn't get one. Instead, we got something much quieter. Just a slow fade into this neutral, indifferent state, where everything is simulated, everything is visible, and because of that, nothing really matters.
So, what does it actually feel like to live inside this quiet apocalypse, this hyper-real system? Well, Baudrillard has a very specific diagnosis for us. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? We're both at the same time. We're melancholic, we feel this sense of loss for a reality we can't quite touch anymore, but we're also fascinated, we're totally captivated by the very systems that are making us disappear, glued to the screens that simulate our world into meaninglessness.
And this condition, it's got some pretty clear symptoms. We see this deep apathy, this brutal disaffection. There's this weird fascination with watching things end, or just implode. Our world isn't really about growth anymore. It's about inertia. A system that just gets bigger and bigger, more and more saturated, without actually going anywhere meaningful.
Okay, so if the system is this total, this all-consuming, is there any hope? Can you even challenge it? I mean, how do you fight a void?
Now this is Baudrillard at his most provocative, for sure. He's suggesting that in a world of pure simulation, the only real rebellion left isn't with actual weapons, but with ideas. It's a kind of theoretical violence that challenges the system at its very core, that tries to force it to confront its own meaninglessness through radical thought.
But here's the massive problem, right? What happens when you throw a rock at a bank of fog? What do you do when you try to attack a system that is literally designed to absorb all attacks, to simulate rebellion and turn it into just another TV show? The system, Baudrillard says, has its own form of nihilism, and it's way more powerful. It doesn't fight back. It just neutralizes everything. It takes any radical act, any challenge, and just dissolves it into the massive, indifferent ocean of information until it has no power left. And so you get this final showdown. The terrorist, in theory, launches a radical challenge, trying to make the system answer for itself. But the system's response is the ultimate nihilistic move.
It makes everything, even death, even terror, completely meaningless by turning it into just another blip on the screen, another piece of data to be scrolled past and forgotten. In the end, neutrality wins.
So where does that leave us? It sounds pretty bleak, but Baudrillard offers one last, kind of cryptic hint of a way out. If a head-on challenge is useless, is there maybe another path?
The big insight here is that all these systems of meaning we create, they rise and they fall. They're mortal. But the raw play of appearances, of surfaces and signs and images, completely stripped of any deep meaning, that stuff is immortal. It was here before meeting, and it'll be here long after. And this is the final provocative thought he leaves us with. In this meaningless, immortal dance of appearances, something else can happen. It's not about finding truth or some deep meaning anymore. It's about seduction, the game of surfaces, of signs, challenging and playing off other signs with no deeper reality needed behind them. So what does that mean for us? Maybe. Maybe the only way to respond to a world of dead meaning is to just embrace the fascinating, beautiful game of the surface itself.